Hey, it's ODB from OLP, your Mini Truckin' podcast. This is Mini Truckin' Magazine, issue 88, 97 Chevy S10 Blazer owned by a guy named Michael Kandilian, Kandilian. It's a real good issue. You basically have Niche wheels the first time on a cover truck. It's their first of 6. You have Wes Allison shoots it, his 15th cover, and then Starbuck and team, they paint this, I'd say, iconic SUV. I believe this was the first for MIC in terms of Mini Truckin' Magazine. The feature talks about the previous cover features that they had over, of course, in sister publication Truckin'. You have NOPI Nats here, so that's the insert photo, and a cool rolling shot. Whether it was actually a rolling shot or if it was standing still, we don't necessarily know. I don't know that Wes Allison will come on the podcast. I mentioned in the past that he has commented back, but I really think he's more of a guy that likes to stay behind the lens, so to speak. So, we'll have to see if we can ever make that happen. So let's jump right in. You basically have the table of contents, about 6 or 7 features, tech, events, NOPI Nats, Out of the Woods, Casino Nats, Endless Summer 98, Midwest Summer Explosion. You have special section, shop tour, Godfather, and then you see some of the photos here. This car was local to Tampa. I actually have a couple photos of it from a Soundstream event. I had actually totally forgotten about it. I didn't look at this issue prior to going through it. But I do have some photos of it. It was kind of cool. Those were super popular at the time. Those wheels where a lot of guys would color match those. I think they were Momos. And then boom, you've got Wes Allison there with the iconic shoot. That's kind of a cool photo there. Just showing how low it is. I always thought these early S10 front ends looked great. You had the, especially if you had the smooth bumper all the way across, and then you have the valence. Kind of a rare setup. You didn't really see that too often, I guess, with the throwing in the Phantom Grille, I should say. So kind of a cool setup there. But again, this is issue 88. If you like what we're doing here, leave a comment. Please subscribe. We really appreciate it. Like I've said in the past, Courtney Halowell, rest in peace, is still the editor at this point. And you can see his editorial there from the man himself. You got the KMC ad over on the left. They were always a big supporter of Mini Truckin' Magazine. You have your standard ads here. Paper cuts. You can bump this up to 4K if you're looking to screenshot something or see something a little bit more close. Certainly suggest that you do that. I know most of us have the default setting to bandwidth, so whatever your signal strength is. Here's classy car. This thing really has a storied, I want to say storied franchise, but really a crazy story behind this one. This was Les Carr's S10, and not only was it featured here, it came back a couple more times. One of the things that stood out is bankrupt on the plate. I've kind of kept in contact with him. Every couple of years I'll message him. I know he's kind of moved on, I think, from trucks, so to speak. But this thing was done 3 times off the top of my head. It was this version. It came back. It might have been 4 versions, but it also came back as kind of, it had that, reminds me of like kind of the Woody Woodpecker logo on it. Not logo, but the flame down it. We got a chance to see that. I thought that was probably my favorite version of the truck. And then it was black and it was shot at Scraping the Coast, I think last by Mike Alexander. But one of the cleanest S10s that you'll see anywhere. I never did see it in this version, but this might have been version 2 now that I'm thinking about it, because I think it was bankrupt originally. And then it was this, and then it was the 2 other versions. So keep me honest if anybody knows less from Assorted. It was either this was the first or second version of it, but look at all that tweed. Thing was so nice. And although he's not active on social media, I think I've tagged him. So if you ever want to go back and look up Les with 1 S, Les Carr. And I think if his profile is not hidden, you should be able to see what he's been tagged in. Like I said, I have not flipped through this issue in a very long time, although I do kind of refer to my database and everything that I kind of built out in terms of facts. Certainly, it's always a trip down memory lane for me as well, going through these issues of the magazine. They certainly bring back a lot of memories for myself, and I appreciate all of the growth that we've seen here on the YouTube channel, but also like many of the guys out there, like you guys that comment. And what I meant by that, this was another Nissan. When that truck got redone, it had, dare I say, a similar flame to this. Obviously, it wasn't the same, but those two trucks come to mind, and I really liked Les's that other version that came after the version you saw there. This S10 was a staple. We saw this thing everywhere. I think the first truck show my son went to, this thing had came down from, at the time, maybe Georgia. And it's changed hands a good amount of times. That was always a super clean Yoda. Dizzy, shout out to Dizzy from Custom Scene Podcast, and he helps with Hammered Weekend Wear. He also helps with the Spark Show. He had a chance to buy this maybe last year. I don't think it was earlier this year. And he went to buy it, and then some crazy story came up about how the guy wrecked the truck before he got there, and some weird story. But that was always a truck that I liked. I got a chance to see it at NOPI. Probably NOPI 99 or 2000, I saw it. There was another truck that would confuse me. I have photos of a truck that looked just like this, but it was in primer. And I always thought that was the early version of this, but I don't think it was, because this thing was already done. So anyways, there's a couple of them out there. That one was super nice. This is a separate reality. This thing would, of course, hit a lot of shows around this era. This is etched in many of our minds, especially from Florida. Many of us remember this S10. This was a Ranger, I believe, right there. Shout out to everyone out there that's helping keep Mini Truckin' alive. We'll hope to see you at Mini Nats next year in Maggie Valley. One of our favorite shows, and of course, arguably the best mini truck show in the world. I would put money on that. Here's, again, just to kind of reinforce, topless and standard cab minis was the thing, and you can see there's another one. There's Herb's S10 with Caldwell's Blazer in front of it. Some of my old friends, they went this year, the 98, I believe. There's Ryan Cochran. His name came up when we had Daryl and Tim on recently. That was version 2, I believe, because I kind of forgot it was a different version originally. And I went through, I think, that feature not too long ago. It's crazy how there's so much history with these trucks. This is a good layout, even though we're not all color yet. I still think the layouts were good here because you had good, little bit larger photos, but you had plenty of show coverage, at least from this show. Again, the timeless Mazda B series. I would always hashtag Mazda B2000 and Mazda B2200, but I know Jason over at Low Mazdas, or Low Mazdogs, he's always hashtagging Mazda B series, so I started doing that as well. Here's Caldwell's Blazer again. His name came up as well. Talking to Tim. Tim worked at the drop shop, and if you haven't had a chance, go listen to that episode. Was it 316 maybe? Daryl comes on as well as Tim, and they were good friends. And of course, Tim went on to work, as I said, at the drop shop. He talks about when Caldwell's Blazer was there getting 18s, and that was kind of a mod back then when you were looking to, let's say you were laying on 17s and you needed some more clearance. Based upon the tire size at the time, we're very fortunate now. We can get so many different tire options, but back then you had to do some trimming to potentially lay your truck on a bigger wheel with, of course, an overall larger diameter with the tire. Here's the Trader's ad. We saw this S10, of course, really a classic. I wonder if that thing's still around. You get the Frontier road test. So around this time, the new Frontier was coming out. Here is Out of the Woods 98. And I think I mentioned this show recently, if I remember correctly. And now that I look back at it, I do think this was the show that Bob might have been coming back from when he fell asleep. and the truck crashed, Bob Grant. The reason why I think that is I have video after the crash, and they mentioned, I think, where they were at, and I think I remember referring to this issue to see if it was in show coverage. But I'd have to confirm that with Bob or go back and listen to that episode. We have had Bob Grant on, and it's crazy. I know some of you guys would go, oh yeah, Bob was on. Man, I tell you, all of this information as well as the information from the guests, sometimes it does run together a little bit. So it is tough to kind of conjure that stuff up quickly. Here's Trendsetter Minis, Down to Earth. Of course, we've had Chris Kudo on, one of the OGs from there. These were always some of my favorite write-up or sections. What's in a name? Back windows to the soul. Here's Ardenoy. Shout out to them. Severed, of course. I've been in a long time. Lower Level. A lot of those guys ended up in Subculture. We haven't talked about that enough. Flawless Concepts. The only thing I dislike about this is, unfortunately, it wasn't in color. Truckin did those as well. Mini Truckin did. And it was always even better in color. Here is the Jake Mooney's Isuzu. And this was in Evansville, Indiana. Again, I need to get with Dustin Haven. This was his S10. I think it was on one of the calendars as well. That iconic dime. A lot of people I've heard say that's their favorite Mini. The classic we've seen a couple of times over the years. Cover truck. And just a lot of good stuff going on here at these shows. Appreciate, again, all the support. If you can, like, subscribe, comment. It really helps. Here's Over the Top. So MIC redefines custom. And I always like this shoot because you had this awesome rear three-quarter shot here. So you could really see the paint. Doug Starbuck and his team, they always went above and beyond. And this, if it doesn't remind you of West Side, which was the version of Crew Cut before Crew Cut, I don't know what does. I mean, this really is reminiscent of that Mini. There's the shot we saw in the table of contents. And you see the little start off here, talking about Master Image Customs. I have talked to Rob Maggi, and we are trying to work out on when we can get him on. So rest assured, we're not going to quit anytime soon with OLP. Here you can see this was a crazy custom. You know, to me, you can even see there it was an automatic. So those were, I think, the years where the automatic was in the middle. You can imagine all the work done. Sean Mahaney and team there, of course, at Master Image Customs. And this was the era of the typical dual needle gauge, but then you just had your 1-2 switches, front up, front down, and back. Here they mention the previous covers from MIC, including the Suburban, which we've posted in the past. Rest in peace, Sean Mahaney. I actually sent him that copy that had the Suburban on it, and I really miss talking to him, man. He just was such a nice guy. Was doing a lot to help people too that were bound to wheelchairs. Here you can see 4.5-inch body drop. Sounds like a big body drop, and I think it was for that day, but many of you guys know these Blazers, they had those huge chassis that kind of hung down, and oftentimes, this was way before, kind of stock floor body drops, a couple years at least before. Lil J's, so they use them a lot for upholstery, and that name will come up, of course, with Crew Cut, or with I know with West Side. Can't remember if he did Crew Cut as well originally before the redo with Gas Monkey years later. So Over the Top, again, this was Wes Allison's 15th cover. At this point, he had really, he was the guy that they called. And the cool thing is, Wes continues to shoot stuff to this day, of course, for other publications. Here you have Hal and team at Godfather Customs. And rest in peace to Hal. We understand that he passed away years ago. This was the shop that many of us called for so long. They had a great relationship, as Bill Hancock stated, with Colorado Custom. When we had Bill on, you could see kind of the team there answering the phones. And this was in the era of mail order stuff. I think mail order is still popular, but of course now we just a couple of clicks on our phone and we order stuff. Clint Walker shot this, Hard Luck. And this truck, I think the guy's name was Kaz. I was trying to find it here. Yeah, C-A-Z. Now, one of the odd things about this feature is, I guess maybe only Clint could, or the owner could comment on it. You see basically here, it's in black and white. Now, we know these issues were not full color, so it could have just been how the issue fell in terms of the pages. But it might be one of the only features where they start black and white and then they finish with color. Not a huge significant thing, not taking away from it at all. I actually like the truck, love the colors. You can see some of the colors there in the paint, the bumper, some of the work. But I just always thought that was a little bit different. You know, again, black and white. I actually like the black and white layout there. It looks pretty cool in terms of the overall look of it. Super clean truck. So here is one of the tech articles with the gauges. That was a big thing in that era, the white face gauges. I was actually looking for some white face gauges for my Mazda recently, and there was a guy that had some that claimed that they were the best white face gauges, so I'm not sure how true that is, but it's cool to find sometimes when you're looking for old school stuff. Here you see the rear 3/4 shot. This is a low budget custom. This was Kyle Williams' truck. Can't understate how important the Mazda is to our truck scene. You see the drop factory on the back there. Real clean mini truck. So many of these things featured over the years. Here you have, speaking of Godfather, here's some color ads. So it could have been just based upon how many pages they had available in color versus black and white. So check out this mini Truckin to the max, and this thing is insane. What stands out to me is they still continue to feature lifted minis, and I thought that was super important. It's definitely a part of our scene. You don't see the lifted minis as much, but certainly gigantic. And then boom, here's one of the greats, Endless Summer. This was the Ford, if I remember correctly, totally polished. I mean, I'm 95% sure. The one I posted the other day, this Ford Ranger, there was some question whether it's still around. Someone, Neil, had commented and said that it was in the Dallas area, he thought. And the original builder commented on when he sold it and whatnot. Someone apparently bought it that didn't know much about mini trucks and kind of changed a couple things, and you know, who knows from there what happened. I have posted video from this show, including this Isuzu Space Cab, the Nissan Cow Concepts painted, and some other things. And that was courtesy of the VHS tapes that I have from Steve Nielsen, of course, Tuck Lugs. I've got some video that I'm going to post of it. I don't know that I've ever posted, the whole thing, but certainly need to post some more of that. I'm going to try to post more stuff here on YouTube. Just because I think over the course of time, people are going to appreciate being able to easily go back and find what they're looking for. I'll post some stuff still, of course, video wise in social media, but we'll see. I think I posted video, actually, I know I have, of Sideshow, aka Ahead of You. And we've used that hashtag Ahead of You mini truck and Sideshow mini truck to kind of pull together all of those posts. That's really why I do it. Here you can see the artwork. I always love when they incorporated this into the show coverage. And you have this S10. Iconic there. Party till she's cute. You got the Cadillac tails. And then you have, this might have been the one from Platinum Concepts, I think featured on one of the first street trucks. They had some really cool hard bodies out in that area. And then you can't understate the impact that the sport compact cars had. Of course, we'll see another one here in a few minutes. Nvr2low, so a tech article showing some love to the Rangers. The Rangers didn't always get all the love they probably deserved, but certainly a badass mini. Shout out to my homie Kirk. No regrets. He lives not far from me, and he's got a badass Ranger. Here's Altered. And Altered 1, real clean Toyota. a killer in Daytona, or Dayton, sorry. And this was cool too, because it wasn't just that 2-page spread. If you look at this one, always stood out to me. I always remember this kind of step up area there with all the tweed, some leather or vinyl. And just look, I mean, this was just a killer show truck, a finished show truck, something that pretty much hit on all aspects of the build. A little bit of billet here and there, plenty of chrome, paint, and some weld wheels, looks like. So just kind of chugging along here. And here you have Midwest Summer Explosion 98. Saw this truck at Scraping the Coast a few years ago. I think it's the same owner. Here is Vanthrax. And you can see lower level, they really showed up, of course, with Vanthrax and the Sphinx. And you can see all the guys out here really repping hard. Good times. We're going to keep the videos going here. You guys have seen that I've ramped up, and I've also kind of put a couple days in between some of these videos. I would ask if you can hit the bell notification. That way you're notified when new videos come out. That'll help us here on the channel. So Harsh Reality, this is the one I talked about earlier. It was probably shot here just in Tampa, I would assume, based upon the kind of the pavement and the background there. Lance shot this one. And this is one that we would see, looks like the fairgrounds right there. The clear lenses, it was on Juice, if I remember correctly. Super clean. And then this one, this is kind of a rare thing. They actually had a little TV, whatever you want to call it, monitor inside the steering wheel. That was only maybe one of a couple, probably the only one that comes to mind that I can remember. But they did that, and yes, that was the era of that kind of stuff going down. Pretty crazy. Real good 2-page feature. Here you see some of the sketch pad. This one's pretty cool here. You got a truck driving by, another one with a water tower. A little bit more detail. I think overall, it was cool that they ran that. You didn't really usually see, you know, most of the time you just saw this stuff, which was awesome. But then you level up with that and you're like, damn, that's sick. Looks like a prison deal on the back. I know I glossed over some of these recently, so shout out to Mini Truck Colt. Sorry about that, but I have been trying to kind of speed these up, but I did want to point this out. This is one of the times I can think of that, shout out and rest in peace to Rob Septor. I remember talking to Steve Nielsen on the phone when he talked about Rob's truck being in Ridin Around and Reader's Rides, if you will. And then he was talking about it was going to be shot, which it was, and then it was shot again. So we'll talk about that. And when we have Matt Torgerson on at some point in the near future, shout out to Matt. Matt was really good friends, probably the person that I know that was maybe closest to him. I know Magnet, I think he knew Rob as well. But Matt, you know, was really close to Rob. Rob has passed away, unfortunately, so rest in peace. But that's one where this truck was super sick. It was redone, but it was shot. We'll see it soon in the next issue as a feature. So pretty cool. Reader's Rides, and then feature, and then something you won't even believe a year later what happened. So we'll get to that. I don't want to give away too much. And again, there's another Nissan hardbody topless. Cannot understate how many topless rides there were at that time. Here's Courtney, man about town, emerges from the ultra plush office. Nothing like using one of those porta potties at a show, is there? Tupac Greatest Hits. We just had the anniversary of that. That thing is still crazy on how many streams it gets across, you know, YouTube and all the online streaming stuff. You basically have kind of a full takeover at some point where MIC starts just really ramping up the advertising. Of course, we talked about it a little bit. They had that advertising deal with the crew cut giveaway, and that allowed for them to have a ton of the street trucks back covers. Of course, this was around the same era, but, you know, Rob and team, they really understood the power of advertising. You can see here West Side that became crew cut, the Blazer that's on the cover, all of their parts, the S10 that was on the cover. And we'll talk more about some of their other stuff once we get Rob on these were the packages, man. Right there, 4 bags, 1/4-inch line. That's all you needed. There you have it, guys and ladies. Mini Truckin Magazine, issue 88. This one is April 99. Stay on the rise, y'all. Mini Truckin and custom compacts. We at ya. Peace.